According to a sketch by family friend Anna Lefroy, this is the back of the rectory at Steventon, Hampshire, where Jane Austen was born on December 16, 1775. According to her nephew James Austen Lee, this is the front of the rectory at Steventon. This is Anna Lefroy's sketch of the front of the rectory at Steventon. While the drawings disagree about the number of windows in the front, they do agree that there were dormers on the top floor. The house, in bad condition, was torn down in 1823, so we'll never know whose drawing is correct. This is the church at Steventon, where Jane Austen's father, George Austen, was minister. The spire is a Victorian addition. So the church looked much more like this in Jane Austen's time, without a spire. Jane Austen's biographer, Claire Tomlin, reports that Jane took a page of her father's parish register and tried out names for fictitious husbands. Henry Frederick Howard Fitzwilliam of London, Edmund Arthur William Mortimer of Liverpool. There is nothing surprising about this fantasy, continues Tomlin, until the bottom of the page, when a populist note is struck with Jack Smith to be married to Jane Smith, late Austen. For a moment the Tory parson's daughter seems to be letting her imagination travel in an unusual direction. One would like to know more about that particular dream. That's on page 75. This is Chawton Cottage, where Jane Austen flourished after a somewhat peripatetic life from the age of 18, when her family moved to Bath. It is now a museum created by the Jane Austen Societies. The plaque reads, Jane Austen lived here from 1809 to 1817, and hence all her works were sent into the world. Her admirers in this country and in America have united to erect this tablet. Such art as hers can never grow old. In 1817, Austen became increasingly ill, some say with Addison's disease, but others dispute that diagnosis and declare for something like a liver or kidney ailment. To be near her doctor, she moved with her sister Cassandra to this house in Winchester, a few miles from Chawton. For this part, again, I rely on Claire Tomlin's biography, Jane Austen, A Life, page 267. Lyford, the doctor, administered probably laudanum to ease his patient. Jane knew herself to be dying before it could take effect. Cassandra writes, during that half hour was her struggle, poor soul. She said she could not tell us what she suffered, though she complained of little fixed pain. When I asked her if there was anything she wanted, her answer was she wanted nothing but death, and some of her words were, God grant me patience, pray for me, oh pray for me. Her voice was affected, but as long as she spoke she was intelligible. Thus Cassandra described the last half hour before her sister lost consciousness. Cassandra settled herself with a pillow on her lap, supporting Jane's head, which her last struggle had left half off the bed. Cassandra was unwilling to move her at all, but after 6 hours sitting like this, she allowed her sister-in-law Mary to take her place for 2 hours at 1 in the morning, returning to her post at 3. An hour later, Jane was dead. Cassandra writes, in about 1 hour more she breathed her last. I was able to close her eyes myself, and it was a great gratification to me to render her these last services. Later, Cassandra found these magnificent words in which she was able to express the intensity of her feelings. She was the sun of my life, the gilder of every pleasure, the soother of every sorrow. I had not a thought concealed from her, and it is as if I had lost a part of myself." Her sister watched from this bay window as the funeral procession moved off. The culture of the time didn't allow her to follow the coffin. Jane Austen is buried in Winchester Cathedral. This is the gravestone that her family placed over her grave. In memory of Jane Austen, youngest daughter of the late Reverend George Austen, formerly rector of Steventon in this county. She departed this life on the 18th of July, 1817, aged 41, after a long illness, supported with the patience and the hopes of a Christian. The benevolence of her heart, the sweetness of her temper, and the extraordinary endowments of her mind obtained the regard of all who knew her, and the warmest love of her intimate connections. Their grief is in proportion to their affection. They know their loss to be irreparable, but in their deepest affliction they are consoled by a firm, though humble hope, that her charity, devotion, faith, and purity have rendered her soul acceptable in the sight of her Redeemer. This is a sketch by her sister Cassandra from the back. This is a watercolor by Cassandra. No one knows if it looks like Jane or not, but the countenance is consistent with portraits of other family members, like her brother Henry.